Hi, my name is Dear Tiagi, and in this video, I'll be going over a fall college application timeline and some tips I have based on my own experience. So to start, this timeline will be from September to January, and it'll cover everything you need to do great on your college applications. So before I start, I just want to go into what the whole point of a college application is. So the whole point of the college application is to show colleges that you're an awesome person who's going to do awesome things at their school and will be doing awesome things in the future beyond their school. And the way you show this is through the application, which consists of essays and a whole lot of writing about your extracurriculars, activities, and more. So that's the whole point, and this is how you do it through the application. So the first step, starting from September, starting from now, is to get your letter of recommendations sorted out. So you want to get your recommendations done soon because you need to give your teacher some time to think about you and to actually write the letter. And so at least you have to give them at least 4 weeks before the submission of the letter to allow them to write it. And so for letter recommendations, I recommend taking one letter from a STEM teacher and one letter from a humanities teacher. So humanities can be anything like English or history, and you want these two teachers because they provide a lot of variety in terms of what they're going to write about. And also, you don't want letters from just people who you've done well in their class. You want letters from people who can actually speak about your character, your personality, and not just beyond your academics, right? Because they'll see your academics to your grades, but you want them to speak more about other things, maybe like soft skills and other things, which is what you can do with your letter of recommendations. Secondly, before you do anything else, you have to make sure you have a finalized college list, right? Because without a list, you don't know which applications you need to do, and you don't know any deadlines. So you need to make sure you have a college list. So you need to want to have about 1 to 2 safeties. For matches, you're going to have about 3 to 5. And then finally, for targets, you want to have 2 to 3. And if you're going to increase the amount of schools you apply to, you want to increase in the matches and targets column. So quickly, safety is a school that you're likely to get into based on your stats, and based on acceptance rate, it isn't too low. Matches are schools that you fit with stats, but the acceptance rate isn't too high, so it's not a guarantee. And then targets are schools where you either have a credentials or stats below their median or average, or it's just really competitive schools. So like any kind of like Ivy school or any kind of like MIT, those schools are like reaches for every applicant. So you want to have a list like this, and when you're thinking about colleges, don't just go based off of rank or prestige, because at the end of the day, it's not the rank that makes you happy. It's not the number that makes you happy. It's the people, it's the environment, it's the opportunities at that college that's going to make you happy, and it's going to make you a better person at the end. So when you're looking at college lists, make sure to not look at just that kind of stuff. Make sure to look at things like research opportunities or location, size, culture, etc. And also make sure to focus on cost, your return on investment. If I go here, what kind of like jobs could I get, or what kind of outcomes are people looking at after graduating, and extracurriculars and stuff like that. You really want to make sure the colleges that you apply to, any college, even safeties, that if you got in and you have to go there, you would be happy going there. And I really want to stress this: you really want to be happy with your safety school, because a lot of times people are like applying to these schools and they don't really want to go, but like they don't get anywhere else and they have to go there. So you have to make sure that you're happy with whatever school, with every school on your list, because you don't know if you're going to end up there. So be happy with all your schools. Okay, now I'll actually go into the timeline starting from September or now. So this is after we've done all the other stuff. So September, the first thing I want you to all do in September is to write down, to dump all your extracurriculars and awards onto a Google Doc. By doing so, you'll be able to see like all you've done, all the activities, awards, etc. And then once you have the dump, I have a Google Doc template in the description that has the Common App activities style, and I want you to fill in 10 Common App activities, and then the 5 awards using the template. So based on all your extracurriculars and activities you did, fill in these 10 and these 5. You're likely going to have to revise them in October if you're applying early, or December if you're applying regular, because they're probably going to be changing a little bit. But you want to have these filled in and these with descriptions and stuff like that. And for descriptions, make sure that you include numbers and kind of like things that show your involvement and show your actual, you know, activity in active participation in the whatever activity. So numbers are good. Then once you have these extracurricular activities, this is the first thing. Then I want you to start writing the Common App personal statement. So most schools will require you to have a personal statement from the Common App, and they'll require you to submit it. So the Common App personal statement is 650 words, and it's basically kind of like an open-ended question that asks you to reflect and talk about really whatever you want. It's an essay that you can really choose anything about. And so my tips for the Common App personal statement, you're starting this in September, right? The tips are, these are kind of basic ones, but you don't want to show, not tell, right? So use descriptions, use dialogue, etc. You want it to feel like fun to read, right? Because imagine if you were an admission officer, you wouldn't want to read just like some guy like listing out all this stuff. You'd want to read like a story or something like enjoyable to read, right? So show, not tell. Also, you want to kind of stick to one idea. You don't have to, obviously, but one idea usually makes it easier just to write and understand the story. You also want to have a good hook because admission officers don't have that much time, so having a hook kind of draws them in more. You also want to be really personal and reflective and show growth, right? Because the thing is, you got to really show how the whatever in your story connects to you, because they want to see more about yourself through this essay. Your extracurriculars, your stats, whatever, they give you an idea of who you are, but they really want to know more about you through these essays. So you want to show this personal element and stuff like that in the statement. And also, being unique is a really good thing. You really want to show your uniqueness and what makes you different from other applicants kind of through this statement. And one way you be unique is by not using cliches. So don't really say like stuff like I want to change the world or I want to do whatever, because like everyone wants to like help the world, everyone wants to change the world. You want to be more unique, and you want to be more specific about what you want to do specifically. And finally, you also want to write something that's fun to read, right? Because if it's not fun to read, if it's not enjoyable, if it's not even something that you would read, then why do you expect someone else to read it, like even care? You want it to be something that you like to read, and that'd be something that someone would like to, read about. So you want to do that. You also want to do fill in the basic info in the Common App, right? This is stuff like family stuff, etc., and that kind of like basic stuff. And you also want to decide on EA/ED/RD. So if you're doing EA and ED, you're gonna have to apply by usually November. Some schools actually are in like late October. So if you apply EA ED, you're gonna have to do a lot more work in October, and then RD is gonna be due by June. So you got to make sure that by September you decide which one you want to do, and you decide what your plan is for the future. And finally, if you did all this, if you've started this statement, you've basically written it, and you also want to revise a little more, then you can start doing your supplementals from here. And you want to prioritize, obviously, the early ones first. And this leads us to October then. So in October, oh, and one more thing, September, if you want to take the SAT one more time, this is kind of your last chance before early applications and regular decisions due. So sign up for the SAT in September, if you want to take it one last time. Next, in October, you want to kind of finish, right, proofread, revise, you want to revise multiple times, your Common App personal statement. And then you have to really focus on the supplementals. So supplementals, there's going to be a lot of them, depending on what colleges you apply to. But there's really only about 5 major teams for the supplementals. There's the Y Us, for the Y College essay. There's the Y Major essay. There's the extracurricular essay. There's the community kind of essay. There's the kind of like fun/personality essay. And finally, there's like a values reflection, which is, not every school has this. This is like one of the, least popular ones. But the main ones are Y Us, Y Major, and extracurricular, and maybe community. But those are the major ones, and you focus on these based on the colleges you're applying to early and the questions they ask. So just to break down what you want to do for each question, for why ask, you want to really focus on research. So you want to say unique stuff about the college's offerings, like the programs, the majors, etc. So you want to research the college, which also shows your interest, right? Because if you research it well and you research a lot of good stuff, it'll show the colleges you're actually interested in that school. So you want to research and be specific, and you also want to connect it to you, right? Because it should be 50% the college and 50% of like you, why it connects to you. Because they want to also know about you and not just them, because they already know kind of what they have and how great they are, but they also want to know like what makes you great and what makes you awesome. Next, for why major. For the why major essay, you really want to focus on your interests in that major. I mean, like obviously, right? So interests can include like your growth in the major, how you've explored it in high school, and stuff like that. Try to focus on high school. You can talk about the origin story if you want a little bit, but you really should be focusing on high school. And then finally, you should connect it to why you're going to college. It could be general, right? Why you want to go to college for that major, and then how does that connect to your future interests? So how does that kind of play into your broader goals? Extracurricular is pretty easy. Extracurricular, you want to go, beyond description of the extracurricular. You want to talk about what you actually did. Stories are good, right? And you want to really highlight your passions. It doesn't have to be related to your major, but it'd probably be better, I think, if it was. But it's up to you. Whatever you're most passionate about. Community, you want to be uh, think of it more broadly. It doesn't have to be just like community. It could be like anything, like your family, your school, etc. It can be really whatever. And you really want to show how you've given back, right? And maybe how you'll continue to give back at that college if you have enough space. Finally, the personality question. This one's really important, I think. You really want to be like interesting and unique in this one. So I say be like quirky, right? To show your unique hobbies and show stuff like that. And you want to be authentic, right? You don't want to be like fake in any of this. Actually, you don't want to be fake because you know, again, if you're being fake, they can kind of tell you're being fake. And also, you really want to be unique and quirky, kind of, right? Because colleges have a lot of applicants, right? They have a lot of people looking through, and if you're just like everyone else, if you're just like reading this, you can kind of just fall into that category where like, oh, you're just this kind of person. And so by having these unique things, these unique essays, unique attributes, you kind of distinguish yourself from others, and you kind of like make yourself more visible to the schools. And finally, values reflection. This one's also a little less common, but you want to just really go with a core value and a story with that value. And so October, really focus on supplementals, finishing the essay, basically all the writing. Finally, you want to update your extracurricular stuff, anything new happened, any awards, etc. And then if you're applying to UCs, right, University of California, you have to start the PIQ stuff now. PIQs are basically supplementals. There's 8 of them. You choose 4, and you want to start these now because they're going to be due on November 30th. So that gives you 2 months to then write them. Next, November. So November is pretty similar to October. The first thing you have to do in November is obviously submit your ED, your early applications, right? So submit that. Usually to do on November 1st. Some are actually a little earlier, like UT is in October 15th. So make sure you keep your deadlines, organized in like a spreadsheet or something like that, which I actually have in the link in the description. I have a spreadsheet, so check that out. And yeah, you want to do that. And then you also want to start reusing and writing, if necessary, your regular decision supplementals. So the thing with supplementals is a lot of questions are kind of the same, and so those major themes, you can then write essays based on those um, major themes. You can keep writing those. Finally, you also want to start looking for scholarships, right? So scholarships are really similar to college applications. They require you to write essays. They ask you about like grades and stuff. So it's kind of similar, and you want to treat them like college applications when you do them. So be organized and be really thoughtful and unique about your answers. December, it's really a continuation of November. I think there's not much new in it. You want to finalize your supplementals, update your activities and awards, and then of course keep applying for scholarships. Also, one more thing, in December, a lot of schools have this thing called a portfolio. Sometimes it's a music portfolio, engineering portfolio, whatever. You also want to keep in mind those things and start planning for them, making videos, etc. for that as well. And then finally, January 1st, that's usually, well, not exactly January 1st, usually it's a little around that, but that's usually the regular decision deadline, and you want to submit those. And finally, throughout this whole process, you really want to be keeping your grades up, because even though colleges do look at your grades in senior year, right? The first quarter definitely. First half of the year, they're probably gonna look at it. They're probably gonna ask for it, and then even beyond that, they might ask for more updates throughout the year. So you want to keep your grades up throughout senior year. Maybe not the end. Maybe the end's fine, but throughout senior year for sure. And then you also want to, if you have any deferred schools or waitlisted schools, you want to continue showing your interest. So you want to ask, provide updates, right? And you want to, show your interest through these letters of continued interest. So you send these letters and you show that you're interested still in the school while you're on the deferred list or the wait list. And yeah, that's my fall college application timeline and some general tips. Again, the most important tip I can give you all is to be yourself, show how awesome you are, and really, be true. Like, I think that if you're a cool person, if you're a fun person to be around, and if you can show that through your application, if you can show how you've helped others, how you've just been kind to people, I think that'll really help you in your application. And I'm sure you'll all do great just by, following these steps and being proactive and organized with your uh, applications. And yeah, just one more thing. For the Google Doc template for the activities and for the Google Sheet with the colleges and college planning, all in the description. You can download those and use them in your application timeline. And yeah, that's it. Thank you guys all for watching, and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Bye.